can I ask you, Ananya? So when when your mother rather, Nirja, reaches out for help, and you go to a trained, I would guess, therapist or a psychiatrist, you're still a teenage girl, and you're probably going through peer pressure. You're probably worried about how friends will react. You're also famous people. You're wealthy. You're rich. You're in the public eye. And I don't know if maybe then you were too young, but you know it today. And Neerja must have gone through this. You're also going to be mocked for having a rich man's disease, right? This is complete crap. Sorry, my unparliamentary language. This is a complete lack of scientific understanding of mental health issues. But this is how people respond. As a child, because 14, 15 is you being a child, how tough was all of this for you to process, Ananya? And what happened? What was your final diagnosis? When was a doctor finally able to intervene and say, Ananya, this is your problem?
I think I was just completely lost, to be honest. And the thing that probably kept me going at that time was I used to play chess. So that would keep my mind, occupied. I was very into my studies. I was very into sports. I was a very high achiever. But the issue was, even though I was highly functional, I was very, very depressed. And that, I guess, would make people even more confused. Even relatives, for example, would just would not understand what's going on. And it happens all the time. When I was talking to you last time, that you see someone and they're perfectly fine, and they're looking fine, they've dressed fine, but they've got a story within and they're really suffering from within. So I guess I was going through that while growing up. But then, therapy really helped. My mom was pretty much fought through this with me by herself, and she's going to get very upset that I'm saying this. It was it's been a journey, and my mom's truly been it's I would not have been able to be here today without her.
That's really sweet.
And one more point to this before I forget is, a couple of days ago, we were just discussing how it's impacted my mom in so many different ways as a caregiver. And, I ask myself, and everyone asks me how I'm doing. Not that much anymore, because I'm healthy and I'm fine now, but till about 4 years ago, I would say, probably just before I got into the music career. But no one would really ask my mom, how are you doing? And she is my primary caregiver. She probably she's going to start crying. It's a bad idea to bring this up.
Bad idea.
I cry, by the way.
But
I cry a few times a day. It's okay. It really is. I think more of us should be able to cry. We'd feel better at the end of it. But Ananya, you've raised such an important point about the role of the caregiver, and I was going to ask Neerja exactly this, because I remember on We the Women in 2019, I had Alia Bhatt and her sister Shaheen Bhatt, and Shaheen had just written a book on battling depression. And when I had both of them on the stage together, Shaheen was actually a little more collected, and it was Alia who collapsed in tears. And I think that complete sort of emotional exhaustion, the anxiety you feel, the guilt you feel as a caregiver, that you keep asking yourself, could I have done something different? Did I not catch it early enough? Did I do something wrong? I just want you to, for once, stop being so stoic and strong and tell us what it's actually been like for you internally.
Yeah, well, it has been tough. There's no doubt about it.
Give her another kiss. Give it a hug and a kiss from me. One from me too.
Thank you.
Hold that.
It's been really tough.
So I think everything is right, and especially being a mom, and the first time around when you're so, in a sense, so naive and almost illiterate where these things are concerned, obviously the first things that come to your mind is guilt. That could you as a mother have done anything different? Has there gone something wrong in your upbringing? All those kind of traditional questions.
She's given me a great upbringing. It's just her guilt coming in.
Yeah, you do feel guilty at that point in time. Of course, now you're much, you're wiser. You know the subject much better. You've sort of, been exposed and all of that. But at that time, yes. And then, of course, you're trying to also figure out how do you get her to feel better, because just watching her crumble or watching her go through a low days, that itself was so painful. and then you're obviously trying to kind of hold her emotions, see how, she can feel better on a daily basis. And then you're obviously trying to hold your emotions as well, because you have your own things that you're trying to
Grappling with.
grapple with and struggle with. So it definitely is extremely challenging for the caregiver. And I just feel that, the caregiver honestly, really needs a lot more. I think you really need to look after yourself a lot more as a caregiver than, traditionally what caregivers do. I think it really is it is pretty tough on the caregiver. I mean, I can sort of say it with a lot more courage and with a lot more sort of calmness, but it definitely is a tough journey. And I like we discussed that for us, if it can be so tough when you have resources, I can't imagine what it must be for people who don't have anything at their disposal. I mean, the emotions remain the same, right? I mean, a caregiver goes through the same kind of emotions, but without having any kind of resources, no kind of backup support at all, it can be very tough.
And that's how they do so much.
Yeah, sorry.
Because of
No, I do want to talk about the class divide and empower and the work both of you are doing. But Neerja, the caregiver, especially in situations like this, sometimes would need intervention themselves, right? The caregiver can slip into some sort of anxiety, some sort of depression. The other thing is the lack of understanding about mental health issues. So I'll share a personal story because I think it's only fair that when you all are willing to be brave, I should be brave too. So I remember that there was a point in my life when I used to every now and then feel like I'm having a heart attack. And every time I would feel this, I would wheel myself, into the emergency wing of a hospital, and I would ask the doctor what's happening. Till I was diagnosed with very severe anxiety attacks. And there was a period in my life for about 2 years that I had terrible anxiety attacks, and they were these self-perpetuating things. And eventually I got past them because I was able to understand them and not be scared of them. And now I don't get them anymore. But the fact that I just thought it was a cardiac arrest, the fact that I was so sort of embarrassed and I felt helpless and I felt like, oh my God, everyone thinks I'm this one tough woman and I am. And now I'm going to have to say I get anxiety attacks. And it was just really difficult, right? So I'm just wondering for you, Neerja, like, did it reach a point where when Ananya was going into therapy, did you feel like you needed that help too? Did you have to do family therapy? Like, what was that process like?
So there were, of course, times when I used to feel that I'm hitting such an emotional low myself that I would do well with therapy, but somehow I don't know why, but and which I think is a wrong thing. I should have actually taken therapy because I think it would have helped me. But you just that's why I'm saying that as a caregiver, you look after your needs last. So, when you're
Yeah.
already grappling with so much, and I also, of course, have the other two kids, and by then work had started, and then every time, Anand, how could you give that picture of me sleeping? Which one?
Why? It's a nice picture. It is a nice picture.
both of us in a car.
Yeah.
I have not given these pictures.
Yeah, so I
We
think
found
sorry, I just yeah.
Don't we look like the same person, honestly?
Sorry, I just got diverted with that, distracted. So I think you just put your needs the last, and then every time Ananya would feel better, I just feel so much better myself that I would feel okay now. We're sort of seeing the fag end of it, and then again there would be a low phase and all of that. So I think in that whole thing, I just never really went to therapy myself, which actually I should have. In hindsight, I should have, because it would have helped me cope with my own
yeah.
emotions much better.